So, sunshine, what I got for you today is neat. I know I say that every time, and maybe that's just because my little pea brain thinks everything's neat, but I think it's pretty neat. My neighbor used to work on boat motors, and into a little bit of racing boat motors, or did that a little bit. Knew some of the doodads. He's told me a couple things they did on boat motors that they ain't hit the chainsaw world either that I know of, or if they do, they keep it secret in the racing world. And some of it's pretty neat. And one of them's spark plug. This video's kind of shot out of order in some clips. At this point, I've already dynoed 0 degrees, 5 degrees, and 10 degrees past. Did dyno test there, and with and without the different decomp plug and different spark plugs. So we've got a combination of dynos. We're going to have a couple test cuts here. The first test cut I don't think was too fair. My evil twin, who I get to help me every once in a while, he was over there. I ain't sure it was a fair saw in there. But I cut it against this 029. Good bit bigger saw. It's got an 039 cylinder on it. We cut the squish on it. Very, very mild port work on it. 5.16 horsepower here, which is well more than we've ever reached here. But we cut them against each other just to see how they did. See how we're coming along with this one. We got us a new cut factor chart at the end. People are really liking that, and there's been some suggestions. I was taking max horsepower and just doing it there. We broadened out the range. It didn't change it much, but it did change it a little bit, and I think it does give us a better feel for what's going on. I think, and I've compared that to a bunch of other saws that I've done since I've had the dyno and since I've been able to do those. There's not going to be a heat factor chart today because we was messing with a decomp plug, and those of you that's been watching know that my thermocouple goes in the decomp plug. Well, I didn't modify every decomp plug along the way to accept that, so no heat charts today. And then another horsepower chart that'll show. It's nice to remember sometimes where we started with this saw. We're making small gains. We've done over 20 mods. I haven't even counted yet. Well over 20 mods to this saw. 20 groups of mods. Today's 3 different mods I'm going to show you. 3 different modifications, and I just count that as one. But we've been picking up little bits all along the way. Just little bits. Not doing anything great big. Still no machine work in this saw. Not saying we won't, but there's none there. And I want to show you what we've gained. Guys, we know about 3 things about me. I'm an idiot, moron, whatever you want to call it. I like to laugh. I like to make other people laugh. I don't consider myself stupid, but I do consider myself ignorant. And there's a great big difference there. Ignorance isn't a bad thing. Ignorance is something you can fix. Ignorance is just lack of knowledge, meaning I can know all there is to know about building a rocket ship, but if I can't fry an egg, I'm ignorant to cooking. Ignorant's not a bad word, and I do consider myself ignorant. I'm a hack. I haven't been doing this long. I watch people, I take information, and I watch a bunch of different people, and I take a little bit from here and a little bit there and develop theories and ideas. Speaking of that, I talked to a guy. He was gracious enough to talk to me for about 4 hours the other day. Oh, I was just elated. We talked everything from raising hogs on dirt to drag cars to who knows what. Man, what a good guy, and he gave me some more things to think about in a chainsaw too. And I'm not going to say his name because I'm not trying to hitch my wagon to his horse, so to say. What he did, he earned. What I'm doing, I'm earning. I'm not trying to steal his notoriety by name dropping. So it just is what it is. Very much respect for him. I'm not saying his name out of disrespect. It's all out of respect that I'm not. The things that are going on next, I want you to get your thinking cap on, and that's why I got a hold of him. I wanted to, the next thing I think we're going to do is a single ring here, and I'm going to do heat, horsepower. I think I can measure the parasitic drag with it not running and know a theoretical how much drag's in there, and I've got that to be measurable. So that's going to be the next one. The one after that, I'm either going to do something else with the mods, because he gave me a figure on muffler mods that I want to try, and partly to help him out to see if his number works right. And I want to build basically an iron horse pipe, maybe like a trombone, so I can slide it, change, and vary the volume in it. But I think there's a third factor in there, and I think it's distance to the end. So my plan may not work on just changing the volume by making it longer. I think that distance is real important, and that goes on with, I'm trying to prove that it's not sonic in a small muffler. I'm trying to prove in my mind that it's not sonic so much as just air cushion moving back and forth. I don't think there's room for the sonic to work in there. But on the other hand, Archer's taking my exhaust stuff, and we got to talking because I'm a ham radio operator, and antennas and quarter waves and half waves and 5/8 waves of radio waves. And I got talking to him. I said quarter wave works almost as, it doesn't, but it works similar to a full wave. In a muffler, you're dealing with a full sonic wave. I said, what if we was able to fit a quarter wave in there? Would it work? So that's why he's got the muffler exhaust temps, and he's trying to work that out. And he's got some numbers that are pretty close, and they worked on his iron horse pipe. So I'm not sure. I like to think it's not sonic. He might prove that it is. Between us, we're getting in there. So guys, get your thinking caps on. Join in down there in the comments, man. We got some stuff going on, and I don't know anything. I can't tell you come here from Sikkim. So guys, jump down below and get less ignorant with me, or help me get less ignorant. 90% of you guys probably build more saws in a week than I've built in my lifetime. I'm fine with that. I'm learning. I'm a hack. We're either going to play with the internals on the muffler again. Well, hell, kicks. We're either going to play with the internals again on the muffler, or we're going to move this cylinder forward. I was talking to Archer the other day, and thinking about moving that cylinder forward. That's going to give us, on a crankshaft that's out here, if we move that forward, it's going to have a better torque now on that, and it's going to, there's a lot of things going on with that. It's going to speed up and slow down the piston. It's going to change our squish. It's going to do a few things, and I can only move it forward so much. But I was talking to that other guy the other day. He's like, man, you're doing some thinking, ain't you? Because he said, I've never said nothing about that, but you're on to something. So he likes helping people be able to build saws at home. I've watched him for years. He's the reason I build saws. Started getting into it, found interest in it. So I'm not showing you guys anything. I'm just trying stuff and showing you the results because, again, I'm a hack. Guys, get on your thinking cap. Leave some stuff in the comments on the upcoming builds, what you'd like to see or what I'm missing, what I need to incorporate, what I need to think about. The single ring may be done by then. I don't know. Let's get right out and do some test cutting, dyno runs, and another test cut, and get in the house and look at charts, see where we're at. So I'm going to move you guys where you're not normally at, because I'm going to throw this saw out of the way. The parts are out of it. I'm going to show you what I want to show you other than the timing. And I'll show you how I set timing. There's not a flywheel key in here, guys. There is not a flywheel key in here. It's right here. Believe me if you want to. Don't if you don't. That's your business. I'm not trying to sell nothing to you. Other than when I get windy enough to blow up an onion sack, you can pretty well trust what I say, because I ain't got no reason to lie to you. I'll throw that out of the way and move you guys up here. Now guys, we had some problems in the last video I did in making stuff hard to understand. I'm trying to do better on this time. I think I'll get everything named the same in the different charts. Mr. Sheeran, you helped me greatly on turning me on to a different spreadsheet. I think that'll make the dynos better, easier to read. Somebody mentioned that it would be nice if I'd kind of tell what I was talking about before and what I'm abbreviating in case I don't. This here's a new plug. In the spreadsheets it'll be NWPLG, I believe, new plug. There's another one that is side gap. I don't remember how I abbreviated it, but you'll see it, and it's the same through there. And what that is the electrodes cut off short to one side. The other one's abbreviated surface gap or SUR gap or something like that. We'll see it when we get in there. But that is what my neighbor showed me. That is a boat motor plug. They do a couple of things. Number one, they hardly foul because it can spark anywhere around there. That gap is equidistant all the way around that electrode, so no matter if it starts fouling out over here, it'll find it a new place. The other thing this does, it pretty well eliminates, they claim it does eliminate pre-detonation spark knock due to the electrode on your spark plug getting hot and basically turning it into a glow plug, and that'll cause it. Now there's other things that'll cause it, but this one alleviates that. Now when I found this, it claimed to have the same reach as this one here, which is a 1/2 inch. Well, it does, but it don't. It's not any longer. This reaches same as that electrode, but it's bigger around this whole area, so that's actually giving us a little bit more compression. It's taking up room in there, right? And we'll get to that here in a minute. Now, but you can see the threads are longer. Now, what I would caution a guy against is running this in the saw for a good long time, because it can carbon up those threads on the exposed portion of the threads and make this a booger to get out. It may just pull the threads with it when it comes out. And the same thing with same thing about a spark plug that don't reach the bottom of the threads. You ever try to put a longer one in there, she's liable to push that threads out. So you want to try to keep your threads full. With that being said, I modified a plug. I stuck it in the lathe and I cut the threads off back to, I just took the threads off that, so if it gets a little bit of carbon on there, it'll come right out, see. But it's still the same surface gap spark plug. This one's new, or it's been in there once, I don't remember, but it's basically new. This one here is the one I run the runs with, and you can see the color of it in there. Runs. There's the color of the spark plug that I ran in it. You can see how this electrode blocks off part of the flame. Look how it's different colored on both sides of that same spark plug. Right there, it's a whole lot darker than right there. So what I did is I marked this as top when I took it out of the chainsaw, so I could show you on this other cylinder how it's sitting in there. The side gap spark plug, and we'll talk about that, it performed alright too. I don't remember if I said it already or not, but I'm a little nervous about those because I did have a spark plug, a brand new one like this. Now don't get me wrong, it's a cheap Chinese spark plug, but I don't know if that makes any difference. This electrode was beaten up and down in a saw I built for a friend of mine, Bob, on a 362. That electrode, you could shake that and you could hear that electrode bouncing back and forth in there. It'd still run good part of the time, and not part of the time it'd miss and cut out, and he changed spark plug in it, and man, that thing run. So that's what scares me a little bit about a side gap spark plug. I'd never ever heard of this electrode coming out before or breaking loose. I don't know what the answer is, other than they make me nervous now. Even on a name brand one, it's going to make me nervous thinking that thing can fall out. If you look at this spark plug right here, and it's timed exactly how it was in the saw, this electrode's sitting in there at about a 30-40 degree angle, something like that. Theoretically, it'd be better if that gap was pointing straight out. As it is, the electrode's blocking part of that flame from going around that combustion chamber. And you can actually look at the spark plug like I showed you a minute ago, and you can see that seems to be so. Here is how deep that decompression plug is inside that head. There's about 5 or 6 threads showing, so there's actually a recess where that plug's at all the way around there. So it's not out even with this combustion chamber. Actually, there's a recess in there, so that's lowering our compression. So we're going to see what we can do about that. Now here's the decompression plug you just seen in this cylinder. You can tell I ain't doing no camera trickery or whatever. There's a new one. Well, that ain't new either. Maybe I'm lying to you. You guys probably can't trust a word I'm saying. Ha! But anyhow, there's a new decompression plug. There is a bolt of the same thread, 10 millimeter by 1.0 pitch. And that was at Napa, and they sold them to me by the piece. And they was oh, I don't know, 70, 80, 90 cents a piece. It wasn't much. Now, a couple problems with it. It won't fit in this head won't fit in the recess. Of course, your other ones take a 13 millimeter or a 1/2 inch wrench. This one here, I didn't even put a wrench on it. 18 or 19 millimeter, I expect. 17 maybe. I don't know. I digress. It's too big to fit well in this hole. It'll fit, but you can't. It'll fit, but you can't put a wrench on it. So to combat that, I just welded a 1/2 inch nut, 5/16 nut. Takes a 1/2 inch wrench. I just welded that nut to the top of this, and then I ground it down around here. It just looks like I used a hatchet. I probably did. But anyhow, I can put that in there now with a 1/2 inch socket, same as I could before. Which leaves you with, well, how are you going to seal it? When I originally thought about this, I thought, well, I'll just take one of them crush washers off one of them. Nope. They must build them. They must build the crush washer and then build a bolt around it, because I couldn't get it off without tearing it up. Then I remembered, well, heck, every time I changed oil on that old side-by-side of mine, oil filter come with 2 new crush washers, and you only use one if you use it. So I put a crush washer on it. Now the head of it's right here. It ain't gonna stick up any more than a Decomp plug would. It'll still fit under the cover of a saw that wasn't designed for a Decomp. But that fills up the back side of this thread and leaves this portion open. There's about 3 threads sticking out right here. I used my highly calibrated thumb and just made sure that was not sticking down below the roof of this exhaust, or roof of this cylinder, and it's not. It's down in there. But that took us up some room and built us some compression. Let's show you what we did with the spark plug. Now I will caution you, there's a couple problems with this spark plug, and they may make a better one. For anybody looking these up, this plug is an NGK BU8H, which is also a 6431 by their number. It's longer on the porcelain up here, so some saws may or may not have room, and actually this here part's a little bit longer. Overall the thing's a good bit longer. It works in this saw. It's tight, but it works. That spark plug's taking up a good bit of volume in there, and I'm actually going to get you guys a calculation on that, because I've measured all the differences there. So basically how much volume we've taken out of that combustion chamber, which would be actually just doing this would be the equivalent of machining part of that squish band out and boosting your compression. We did it with just a bolt and a spark plug on this saw. There is another drawback. There is another drawback to this, in that this is 13/16, so your spark plug wrench ain't going to fit it. They're all 3/4 or 19 millimeter. But small price to pay to be a hot rodder, ain't it? I'm going to put the timing back to where it ran the best, and do some test cuts with it. And you guys can believe me or not, there's no flywheel key in here, guys. Flywheel really don't need that. It relies on that tapered fit. And instead of grinding up the key, I just set it up on here and adjusted my timing to where I wanted it and cinched her down right there. Nothing wrong with grinding the key, but this one had a removable key, so I just took it out. And I've got me some lines here and some lines here that give me an idea. That way I can repeat it pretty quick and easy. But I still got to put the timing wheel on there to get the crankshaft in the right spot to get this in the right spot. I'll bring it back and show you what I'm doing. Now I just got you precariously perched on here. We'll see if we can find it here. Right here, I've cut notches in 2 different fins. Now, this fin's ahead of this one, right? When this fin, that corner of that, is hitting this little notch, and you probably can't see it. I just put a little scribe in there with the file. When it hits this one, we're at 0. That's where the flywheel's at. Now we all know that's not actually 0 because there's timing already put into it. but that's where the flywheel's at when the piston's at top dead center. And then with that notch, I moved it over to 5 degrees past top dead center and made me a notch there, and 10 degrees past and made me a notch there. I put my degree wheel back on here and go through zeroing it again. If I want to go to 10 degrees past, I can lock that. I just line that notch up with that third one and snug her down on there. Now you wonder why that one there just happened to be, when it was lined up with 0 again, she was 15, 20, and 25. So what I do is put that pointing right there, and it's not 100%. Check that about 15 or 20 times while you're putting it together, and I will let you know that I fought this because I was holding the chuck on the timing wheel whenever I was snugging these down. Well, I'd go back and re-zero it, and I'm going to hold it again. I don't care. I'd go back and re-zero it, and it seemed like it moved. Well, I was thinking the flywheel was moving whenever I ratcheted this down, but it wasn't. So I go back through re-zeroing again, and then make sure I'm pointed at that notch. That's how I double check myself. I don't even worry about checking it on the timing wheel, because I've already held that. See, and it just moved. That timing wheel just moved about 15 degrees. There, we're pretty well zeroed. So now we can take that back out, run that to where the piston said was at top dead center, and that little mark ought to be on the third mark to this side. Hopefully that made sense to everybody. Let me get 0. That way you can't. Oh, I could lie to you. Heck, I could edit the crap out of this, but we ain't into that. There's 0. Let's see where we're at. Yes, there's my notch. We're putting a 325/8 pin on here. We've always been running a 3/8/7 pin, but old Archer, he wanted to see this thing side by side with that the Stihl 029 I built, that we moved the bearing pockets in, set the squish. If you guys haven't seen that, go back and check it out. It's a pretty good video. Man, it made that 390 into a runner, or 029. It's got a 390 or 039 jug on it, and lightly ported, but we set the squish on it. Man, did it turn that saw on. Anyhow, he wanted to see if this one here was close to catching that other one yet. And you know what? I'm curious too. So that 029, it's don't have the spur. It don't have the rim sprocket. It's got the spur gear, and it's 325/8. So I'm gonna run the same bar and chain 16-inch bar that I had on that 029. But let's get this thing back together and get her ready. Now I was working on my hay mower, waiting on that to cool, and there is a cool wash pattern inside that reduced can muffler. I want to see if you guys can see that. I think maybe there just got it. That gives a guy something to think about right there. Low decomp plug, surface gap spark plug, 10 degrees time in advance. Too much compression. Son of a buck. Ha! Call in the pit crew. Let's get a new rope enter. Hang on. Long decomp plug, surface gap spark plug, 10 degree spark time in advance. Ignition. Okay, the best combination we had was surface gap spark plug and the long decomp plug at 10 degrees. That bumped us up to 4.69 horsepower and it really bumped our RPM range up. We're up to 10,840 now. So it really stretched us out right here. Previous version of this, I used the same exhaust, same everything else, which was on the reduced volume bark box, which was 4.36 horsepower. Now we'd been above that on this bark box, but that had the large hole at 0.58 opening. The 0.4 actually did better, but I can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, so we're comparing it to this one. And the torque was 2.67, max torque at 73.77. We actually lost max torque. We're down at 2.62, but it was way higher at 82.21. So you can see we lost some torque on the blue one, but boy, it moved. The blue line, of course, surface gap spark plug and a long decomp plug, which would have been the most compression. It didn't surprise me too much that that did the best, but it did surprise me how some of the other ones done. And I want to show you that here in just a second. This one here is just the horsepower only. We're starting at 12,000 and pulling down to 7,000. The other one started about 12.5 and pulled down to 5,500. This is where you're going to be cutting mostly, I assume, in between, let's say, with this saw in between, we'll say 11,250 and 9,000, I don't know, before it really starts dropping off. You can see we've gained, with the surface gap and a long decomp plug, we gained the whole way. And just a reminder of where we started out. Here was this same cylinder before any modifications, no base gasket, and just a decent muffler mod. So guys, yeah, we've done 15, 20, 30 things to this, a little bit at a time, and each one we're jumping up. We're up to here now. We've done some big gaining from 3.15 at 8350 up to 4.69 at 10,840. We've gained 2,500 RPMs in the cut, plus a horse and a half, give or take. We're doing some good with this, and you're going to see that in the cut factor here in just a short. But before we get to the cut factor, I want to show you what the other variations of this did. This is the long decomp and surface gap plug test, but we done some things here, and there's kind of some neat results. The first one, the highest one, each one of these is the max horsepower. The best one, of course, was the 10 degree long decomp, long D, and surface gap, surgap. The next one was 5 degree, which is no surprise. Both of these, of course, raised our compression a good bit. And the third one was a long decomp and a side gap. So each one of these raised compression a little bit. Before I advanced the time it or done anything else, our previous one with this reduced volume bark box was 4.36 horse. So we gained a little bit with 5 degree and a side gap, but not much. We actually lost on some of these. A new plug and a regular decomp, we actually lost 2/100ths of a horsepower. And I'm confident in my dyno, but when you get down to 2/100ths of a horsepower, it's about a wash. The next ones are the ones that really surprised me, and while I'm thinking about it, I'll get down to these last three. I fattened those three up a little bit over where I run these first ones. What amazed me was the 10 degree new plug and regular decomp. This saw did not like, here's the previous, this saw did not like a timing advance without a boost in compression. Okay, I'll say it again. This saw did not like a timing advance without a boost in compression. So a timing advance shows it's not always going to help you out. It's going to be thing by thing. And I was talking to a guy the other day, and we was talking, and he said, yeah, some saws like timing advance, some don't. Here's one that wouldn't had we not boosted compression. 10 degree with a new plug and regular decomp is below where we were with 0.0 and a good plug and a regular decomp. What this is kind of making me lean towards looking at in the future is compression and how that deals with whether or not you want any more timing advance. Not sure what to know about that. I don't have enough data with me to make a serious guess, but hey, that's something to look for. We changed our cap factor some, and I just had this on in a number factor that was with our previous muffler mods. I'm going to put this off on its own chart now, and you're going to see some neat things here. The red is your horsepower, and the blue's the cut factor. You'll see that this Stihl 026 has less horsepower than this Stihl 029 with the 039 top end on it and a squish set, but it turns about 1,500 more RPMs. Now we've got this cut factor now stretched out to where it's incorporating an average of about 800 RPMs at 3 different points. So I think it's a broader cut factor. It lowered the numbers a little bit, which is fine. I don't care, they're all the same. They got a decimal point in them now just so they'll fit in the same chart range, and it's kind of neat. See, on this 026, the cut factor is higher than the horsepower. Now on the 029, the cut factor is lower than the horsepower. This 034 that I did for Bob, it's got a cut factor of 4.16 and 4.59 on the horsepower, so they're similar. My 0310 that used to belong to Dan, he's dead now, he squashed it with a track hoe and gave me the saw. It's got a little bit more horsepower, but a lower cut factor because it hangs in there like a hair in a biscuit down low. But it won't, theoretically, it won't keep up with the 026, and honestly, I doubt it would in small wood like that. Now, my old Stihl 270, and I added some more saws. That's just a stock Stihl's numbers on an 029. I just put that in there arbitrarily. I had a guy talking about an MS250 the other day, and if they're worth messing with. Well, they are. Look how much more that is than my unmodified 026 with a big bore cylinder. We had 3.15 horse at 2.62 as a cut factor because the RPMs were down there and we were maxed out about what factory horse was. They claimed 3.2, so we were right in there. But Joe's 026, it cuts the cut factor, and I know it would outcut that saw when it was unmodified down here. So to that guy asking about an MS250 and an 029, yeah, there's some room for improvement in there. You can make a saw, and these can go a whole lot more. So guys, just stop them charts. Let me know what you think about any of them. Hopefully they're easier to read, and let me know what y'all think. Get down there in the comments. Tell me what you think we ought to do after this single ring deal. Move the cylinder forward, or start playing with mufflers some more, or open it back up and change the gut center. Take some more, open up the lower transfers a little bit more. Whatever you guys think you want to do, let me know, and we'll see what wins and what loses.